Boker Tov, morning everybody. I'm a really great believer in obviously being very aware that we're after John Medved, very big shoes to fill, but I think that we're pretty incredible. So first of all, before we get into the amazing companies that these fabulous people represent, what I would like to do for us today is to make it like real. Like I'm a mum, I deal with puke, I deal with kids screaming, and I always like to kind of keep it simple. So for the people who are here to benefit, in a way, if you could tell us a little bit about yourselves first as people. Who are you? Because you've got an amazing brain. Who are you?
Okay, so I will start. I'm Rutie Adar, and I'm already 30 years in the industry, joining in the very late 80s. And in the past almost 10 years, I've been with Samsung under a Samsung strategy office. Mother of three, all geniuses. Nobody of them is going to go to the high-tech industry, unfortunately, but there are additional very amazing places for them to go. To talk about Samsung or...
Sure. Maybe first of all, I would like to know who you are, and then we'll go into your companies.
Okay, well, my name is Yair, and I'm a little hoarse, so I apologize for that. And like Rutie, I've been around this business a very long time, first as an entrepreneur, and for the last 20 years as a VC. I purposely do not call VC an industry because I don't think we're industry. I don't think we're making anything. I think Michael said it earlier before. Entrepreneurs are the key thing, not the VCs. We are more of a G&A to help the entrepreneurs. Before Intel, I was for 13 years a managing partner at a fund called Genesis Partners. And before that, I was an entrepreneur for quite a few years.
Excellent. So I think what would be really helpful is if you can give us a few kind of sentences and overview of exactly what your company does, because when I looked in, for example, Samsung, you know, obviously we think, oh, we have the phones and the fridges and da-da-da, but you don't actually realize how hugely your companies are based all over the world and the footprint that you have. So it'd be good to go into that and then to give some real facts and kind of humanize the way that companies can approach you.
Okay, so definitely everybody knows Samsung. We have it in our pockets, in our homes, in our cars. But not many people know that the Samsung Group actually is a group of 61 companies. Out of them, we have maybe the world's largest shipping workshop. We have a hospital, we have insurance company, amusement park, hotels, biological medications and things like that. So the company is very, very diverse, 500,000 people. Most of them actually are not Koreans. Company's headquarters in Korea, of course. But the company that everybody knows is Samsung Electronics. And Samsung Electronics is a company of $200 billion, in annual revenues. This is one of the largest electronics companies in the world. And Samsung Electronics is known for maybe three main pillars. We have our mobile phones and our mobile devices. We have our consumer electronics, everything that people have in our homes that is not mobile. And we have our semiconductors, where Intel and us are, of course, both going after being leading market shares. And where I'm coming from is the Chief Strategy Office. We noticed 6 years ago that actually in most of these areas, Samsung is already #1 market share. And what can be the new growth areas? What can be the new business creation that we can add to the company in the coming years? And of course, these businesses need to go after huge markets of trillions of dollars and billions of dollars, where actually when we invest and open new businesses and new product lines, we need to be able to move the needle. And this is what our office is doing, and we're doing it through M&As, through investments, and of course through some internal exciting developments with partners. And Samsung, through our 3 investment arms, Samsung Ventures, Samsung Next, and Samsung Catalyst, I think we are a very dominant and active investor here in Israel. We believe in the Israeli technology. and Israeli businesses. And we invested in more than 40 new companies in the past 4 or 5 years, so that's a lot. We're very, very active and encourage, entrepreneurs to reach out to us.
Well, Intel does only one thing, but it tries to do it very well. We manufacture chips. But around chips, there's a whole ecosystem which we try to drive, and that's really where Intel Capital comes into play. We invest mostly in areas which are peripheral to Intel's core business of manufacturing chips, because we believe in expanding the entire ecosystem, and therefore, essentially, not all of our investments, some of them are core Intel-like, but most of our investments are building the ecosystem around. For example, investing in chips, in switches, investing in blockchain, investments in Movit, which we did last year, in the ecosystem of the mobility. And by doing that, we try to build up the entire technological and IT ecosystem in order that eventually people will acquire buy our chips, buy our products, but not by increasing the size of the entire pie.
Fabulous, thank you. So as you're such large, incredible corporations, how do you humanize yourself towards amazing entrepreneurs who maybe are a bit shy and scared and kind of think you're a bit like the Mossad that, like with us with the London Stock Exchange, people are like, I can't talk to you before I'm listing. And James and I are like, yeah, come and have a coffee, it's okay. So how do you humanize the way and reach out to people with that?
Well, we invite them to Petach Tikva.
That's
and
awesome.
No, seriously, I think I was an entrepreneur before I was a VC, and basically just, hey, let's talk about a story. Tell us about what it is that you're trying to do, and let's see if we can do something marvelous together. That's the bottom line. And if we can be of help to you, you, entrepreneur, are the core essence of the entire system here. And if we can in some way assist you in building up your company, your vision, your dream, we'd love to participate in that. And in the process, we would like to maybe give you we will bring Intel with all of its vast resources to try to help you build a company. And we will not invest in you unless we think that we can be of help to you. And we will also try to give you some of our personal experiences in the process, tell you all the mistakes that we have done. Hopefully you will not do those. You'll do other mistakes, but hopefully you will not do the mistakes that we did.
Lovely. And what specific companies are you looking for at the moment? What's really interesting for you, the companies to meet? What type of areas are you looking at?
I think that it was said before today that we're now in the data economy wave. If you look in the past, you could see very large waves, and at the beginning of each wave, there were the amazing investments in the companies that actually became category leaders and formed the wave. So we had the wave of internet, and then we had the wave of mobile, where everyone's interface to the world was through their smartphones. And now we're in the middle of the wave of data. And as someone, Shachar, I think, said in the morning, Israel is becoming the Saudi Arabia. Data is the new oil. And definitely data needs companies that understand in analytics, in machine learning, in AI. And actually, data is transforming almost every domain that we're looking at. We talked about healthcare. We talked about transportation. We talk about retail and consumers. Every domain is affected by data today, and companies that have access, unique access, and own their own data can become a category leader. Companies that understand how to use this data in ways that disrupt the economy and create new business models are of interest in almost every domain that you can imagine.
Yep.
And in terms of how you explain to an entrepreneur around the financing, whenever I've really met early stage people, they always say, look, not always, but sometimes they say, I need this amount of money, and I'd like to give this percentage of my company. Like all the blurry language around the categorization, how do you help an entrepreneur through that?
Well, generally speaking, one of my first advices will be to an entrepreneur and to anybody else and to fellow investors, let's not manage the company through the cap table. Raise as much money as you think you do. I will never tell an entrepreneur not to raise more money because of a dilution. And I will try to create a win-win situation where the valuation which we work out together will still be beneficial to the entrepreneur while also keeping my financial interest in mind. So that would be my first advice. Just raise as much money as you think you need, probably more than that, because you will always spend more than you expect to spend. And in doing so, the second advice would be to choose the right partner for you. Sometimes I will be the right partner. As I said before, if I'm not relevant to an entrepreneur, I will not work with her. I will not ask her to let me invest in her because I cannot help her. So choose your right partner. This is a long ride. Always, always be there for each other. And the last, really related to that, be totally transparent with each other. Work closely and never hide anything from your investor or your board.
Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, we're in the business of people. We call it technology, we call it, the 40s, but actually we're in the business of people and creating the right chemistry, being able to ask for help and offer help, being, really transparent. And there is a lot of values that both the entrepreneurs bring to us as Samsung, and Samsung can bring to entrepreneurs not only as a potential customer or acquirer, but really as people that are together in this, roller coaster journey together.
And in terms of the amount of companies that, the way that your model works, us and the exchange, we have like Chinese walls between some of our departments, obviously. So you must have the same thing in terms of if you suddenly discover a technology that's in one of your incubators that it's going to be brown. How does that work internally?
Well, within Intel Capital, we will try. I'm not saying we'll always succeed, but we are about 40 people, 40 investors. We were many, many more. We've cut back on number of investors and also number of geographies. We used to be all over the world, like 57 countries. I didn't know there are 57 countries in the world. But Intel at one time had 57 locations. Right now, basically, we're focused on 3 locations, United States, China, and Israel. And I think, by the way, it's a huge compliment to Israel. And so we will work closely with, and we will try not to invest in competing technologies, competing companies. We don't always succeed. There are times when we will do other things, but overall that's what we try to do so that conflict does not arise. Where the conflict does arise a little bit is if we invest in areas where Intel also has development plan. And we just have to be, again, very transparent to the company. Tell the company up front, hey, we are also doing it internally. If you choose not to work with us because of that, I respect that.
Achi tov. And then in terms of Israel and the landscape, obviously, as large corporations with a massive footprint, do you behave differently on Israel? Because obviously you can't have the same model for each of your countries. So, we move like the wind here, and I'm assuming you move faster than the wind, both of you. So have you developed the culture? That's what I'm trying to ask, towards Israel.
Not really. I mean, of course, Israel is a very strong location for us, but I think that we operate in Israel in a very similar way. We're a global team. We are doing the investments globally. We examine deal flow coming from all over the world, really. I mean, many, many countries. And Israel is one of them. Of course, Israel, we just said that from our Kälkaliist fund, we had 1/3 of our investments in companies were companies coming from Israel. So that's a very, very large portion. But still, I think the way we handle Israel is very similar. It's always based on personal relationship and, our personal network here.
For me, at least, I will always try to duplicate what I've did as a financial VC. try to work fast, responsive, and give answers, certainly if it's a no, but also if it's a yes, as soon as possible to the entrepreneurs. And so they know exactly where they are at any given time. And that's true Intel worldwide. We have done deals where we're able to do deals within 2 weeks, but the other deals, my last deal in Tri-Eye, for example, took us 6 months to do because we waited together with the company and the initial investor for certain results that the company was developing. But we will really try to work with the company at the pace that the company feels comfortable with.
So like the wind in Israel then?
At times,
yeah.
At other times, like sand.
Thank you very, very much. It's a great pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.